Good morning, it's Brian. We are on the Art of Startup War. Today, as always, we only bring in unbelievably successful entrepreneurs who are breaking through in a massive way. Why do I believe that they are unbelievable entrepreneurs breaking through in a massive way? Because we, Expert Dojo, have invested in this company. We have put money into it. We believe in it. We believe in the founders. We believe in what they're doing. And I will go so far as to say this particular company that I'm going to introduce in a moment are moving the entire boundaries of where we store absolutely everything. This, my friends, is the future of cloud. So I would love to welcome onto the show Handoyo and Simon. Let me start off with Handoyo. Handoyo, great to have you on the show. I would love everybody who comes on this show is an investor, right? And the folks are just looking to find out, like, tell me what makes this company so incredible. Why should we invest in this now rather than waiting a week, a month, a year, whatever? Now, I know in my mind of minds that in 6 months' time, it's going to be too late for anybody to invest in this company. It is going to be a pure institutional play because the traction will have moved on so much, nobody else is going to get into it. But I want to get that point across on the podcast. So let's start off by firstly seeing me saying a big hi to you. And secondly, me asking you to tell us all about Lyrid and why do I believe this is the future of cloud?
Right. Thanks for having us, Brian. Thanks for having us in this podcast. And I want to go back to like the origin story of us. This is where I was actually working with a bunch of we're infrastructure company when I was working, and I see all these problems with the cloud at that time. That was like 8 years ago, by the way, and it's actually compounded even toward now. I mean, back then, there's probably only like 40 something brands or 40 somethings labels in the cloud, and that is already overwhelming. Okay. And I as a data center infrastructure that has to build the data centers, I always have to deal with these complexities of deploying applications in many different cloud. It's not only one. I deploy it to like 3 of them, and every single customers have their own requirement on like what do you call that? What is needed to be run on cloud A, cloud B, cloud C, And I was always seeing like, why does it all have to be that different? They're all pretty much running the same thing, I mean, in my head, they're all running the same thing because I'm right next to it, I'm looking at the infrastructure where they're running this thing, I'm looking at the machine. I built the same machine as they are, And there's a couple of things that I saw that can be a lot simpler back then. Okay? And I was like building this, and then I keep and then the past like 4 years or so, when I was starting to have this idea, is like the problem keeps compounding. They have more and more different products for each one of the clouds, and it's like, what does it need to be that difficult, And I started to see like, what if I can actually build something that can bridge all these clouds together, and I can actually build a platform, a system that can actually connects them together, and where you don't actually have to know what it is that you're deploying to anymore, And I started to get more and more obsessed about that. I mean, I work in a startup for a long time, right? And I'm I guess if you want a resident problem solver, in my old startup, I was like, yeah, I get obsessed with ideas and stuff, and I believe like, hey, this is something that worth pursuing. This is something that I can actually see myself working for the next 20 years or so. It's a big enough problem that I can see that these companies, call it like AWS or Google or Azure or any one of them, they're getting so big and bigger and bigger and bigger, but they keep their customer like a hostage, They keep they putting their customers like it's so hard for them to actually get out from them, I started to think about this kind of how can I make it simpler? How can I run this thing as a single solution platform, and I can deploy this to any cloud dynamically without any, what do you call it, without knowing how to do it for everybody, you know. So that's where I started to dig into the problem. And about 2 years ago, I quit my job, I run to this, and I go full steam ahead for this. And that's where I, what do you call it, and I believe in this idea so much, you know. It's just of this cloud is no longer a brand, I think, you know. It's no longer it's just something, an entity, a commodity, and we should have it like so whatever's best for you should be can be dynamically allocated and dynamically put together by a single system, you know.
I think it's wonderful. And I want to bring Simon in a moment, but if I add a
Mhm.
tiny bit of color to this first,
Mhm.
when I think of cloud services and we think of like how things used to be 20 years or so, and everybody had their
Mhm.
own huge big servers and there were
Mhm.
lines of servers and everything kept themselves in house. And they were like, no, because I want to see the server and then I'll know it's secure. And then, of course, it wasn't, right?
Mhm.
But we then moved to a place where it was okay, let's move all of these servers right up to the cloud. Let's have it so that large organizations who are dedicated to doing this can give us the best possible service. And what's happened is actually, I kind of think of what the large cloud providers do. They're almost like a cheesecake factory menu, right?
Mhm.
There are so many things on the menu that it is overwhelming to go through the menu. And what people end up doing is just letting AWS choose what's best for them. What's the
Yep.
meal most people are like today the most, right? And then
Mhm.
the top five things get all of the people going after them. So, number one, consumers, whether it's large enterprises or small, they generally don't choose the best choices because it's too overwhelming to go into them. They definitely don't choose the best cloud provider because they'll just take the top one or two or three based on what they're
Mhm.
going after. And the entire industry is based on
Mhm.
ignorance and hope, like those two things combined. And that doesn't go very well. So you coming in
Mhm.
with this audacious, huge idea about aggregating all places to
Mhm.
put data in the world and having the very best solution for every single consumer at any particular moment of the day, depending on what's happening, is truly genius. And I want to bring you in, Simon, because you came in as a late co founder. And for you, I'm guessing you went through what I went through, but you being a heck of a lot smarter than me, you realized that this was going to be absolutely massive.
Thank you, Brian, for that amazing introduction. Again, I am learning from your footstep. I am an angel investor myself. I came out from an engineering background, and Handoyo and I went to the same college, and he went to the technical path, 20 years double master degree in computer engineering and computer science. I went the engineering route with the business, so I went for the MBA path. I previously worked in Fortune 500 company, GE and Siemens. And when Handoyo came over to my house, I say, hey, what's up? He said, let's get a drink. We got a bottle of whiskey and we start talking about the problem. When Handoyo was explaining that cloud is that complicated, I understand at that time with my naiveness, there's only AWS. Everyone just use AWS. But Handoyo pointed out to me that there's 200 different products in AWS. Immediately, my business
Wow.
sense just tingle. It shouldn't be that complicated. Imagine that you just want to be hydrated and they give you 200 different type of drinks. It should be either Gatorade and water. Shouldn't be 200 kind. So Handoyo had this vision that he wanted to simplify things. And at that moment, I suddenly have a flashback. Why did my mom 30 years ago, when she started 5 business on her own, she didn't use any cloud computing? Because as Handoyo and Brian pointed out, the businesses made them hostage, made them harder than they need to. When Handoyo told me this vision that trying to make everyone easier to reach to the cloud, immediately I felt like I'm empowering every entrepreneur, every person that have a great idea, instead of learning everything about deploying server, deploying machine on the back end, they can simply type their idea into our platform, Lyrid platform, and allow it to be executed globally, automatically, without having anyone managing it.
Mhm.
And I found that it's so powerful, so empowering. especially Handoyo and myself came from a developing country. One thing that we found out that we always have been paying US dollar for cloud compute. What Lyrid platform can do is not only simplifying it, but making it accessible and cheaper by embedding more data server provider in the developing country. So mean that you as a regional entrepreneur coming up with the idea, you can use data center that is located in your neighborhood that have the same labor cost, the same electric cost. And what does it come down to? It demonopolizes the whole cloud computing world, making everyone win, make everyone a winner, making it more accessible. And then when I hear this, it's just no brainer. And I decided to join Handoyo on this journey for the past 3 years. One
That's
more thing I want to
fantastic.
add on to.
Go on, yeah.
Handoyo is a crazy, crazy SOB. he he could easily get a job for $250,000 a year and even go all the way up to 500K. That's what Google is paying today. He planned for this. He planned for Lyrid for 5 years, quit his job, not draw a salary for the past 3 years, bootstrap this. Because again, it's too difficult for us to explain this to people without somewhat, well, we do have an MVP, but it's not fully developed. This year, not only we have a pipeline of $1.5 million for 2022, we closed a revenue of 500K with barely any marketing. And this is the power of Lyrid as a cloud infrastructure SaaS platform.
Because everybody wants the same thing, right, Simon? Like everybody wants a product whereby their data is kept safe. They want a product whereby their data is accessible at any time from anywhere. And they want a product where they're paying the lowest price for their data to be kept safe and accessible. That's really all anybody wants. And the challenge is, it's become so obscure, it's become so difficult to tell that nobody knows. Like they could take an AWS product and there could be 40 or 200 other cloud providers that nobody knows who they are. And I'm guessing the same thing, even though this is on a complexity level, it's obviously way higher. I'm sure the same process happened when people were looking at hotels and when people were looking at areas where it was incredibly complicated and who could possibly know of 200 airlines which was the best airline to take to one place or another place. You've just added multiple layers of complexity internally for you, but multiple layers of simplicity for people outside, which is why this industry is absolutely ripe for disruption. So Handoyo, tell me, how do you do it? How do you actually make this happen?
Oh wow, that's a big loaded question, by sheer
Huge.
I like to learn. I'm just saying that. Okay. I study. I learn about a lot of different to get to this point, I have to learn a lot of different ways on how to deploy on many different clouds,
Mhm.
and those interfaces is actually, I mean, they're all different, but the purpose of it is the same, and the what we're providing is actually the abstraction, right? So if you ask me how I do it, I have to learn all that, but my customer don't have to learn all that. So that my customer don't have to learn all that, yes, we, by sheer force, basically by sheer what do you call it, what is the word for it, like just keep doing it and keep building each one of those interfaces and making sure that we're delivering and we're analyzing and we're checking the data every single time when you're deploying, and that you're gonna get the best performance, the best what do you call it, the best everything, that's I mean, I don't want to oversimplify it basically by saying that, but it is a lot of things underneath the cover so that I can achieve that kind of simplicity, and a lot of them is data's analytics, and just by sheer the amount of sheer what do you call it, number of interface that we have to implement.
And Simon, I think you want to add something on top there.
Absolutely. A lot of today's IT is such a black box. Just to give you one example, when you are a global company and you wanted to make sure that all your global user can access to your website or access to your product, You just randomly throw server out there and hope that people have a better experience. And up until today, it's still a guesswork. What Handoyo or Lyrid have created is we allow our data to be analyzed by our users. So you can say, hey, even though my product is global, but all my client is coming in from Australia, and the closest data center is this particular cloud vendor that could be a brand name like Google, AWS, or Azure, or could be a no-name data center, but happen to be the closest to all your clients. So instead of randomly deploying 10 machines, why not deploy one machine closest to your client and give them the best experience? That's the whole purpose of moving things to the cloud.
I love that idea. And I love the way you dynamically are checking by the minute where the best prices are from which provider. And again, as you're saying there, Simon, layering in the logistical challenges are not of where the individual servers are being held. So it's a huge game that you're playing. And who do you feel are going to be your advocates in this game, and who do you feel are going to fight back? Do you think the cloud providers are going to be happier, Handoyo? Or you think, because technically it will increase the amount of business, right?
No, I think they'll be happier. There's certain, I mean, region that they are very, very strong, and showing it that these certain the big clouds can actually provide the services and all those things can be what do you call it? They can utilize our platform to showcase that kind of cost saving across three different. We're not particularly what do you call it, picky about like where is this gonna go. The system will decide. And that's the beauty of it. We're not particularly deciding where this thing's gonna go, and a lot of them is gonna show more data is gonna show up, and more data is gonna get presented, and they will decide them. What do you call it? Some of the public cloud I would think they will benefit a lot from this too.
They'll benefit hugely because it will be, again, exactly the same as within the airline space, whereby you'll have a sufficient amount of airlines that will come on, that they will realize that they're going to benefit from more business. And then what will happen is everybody else will then come in afterwards because you will become so strong. This is merely a supply and demand. And for a lot of people listening here who maybe are not hugely in line with what happens within the cloud, yeah, there's some people who are paying a couple of bucks a month. But there are organizations paying millions, tens of millions of dollars a month, huge money for what they're trying to do. Like you don't even want to imagine how much money Tinder or Twitter and you don't even want to think of what TikTok pay on a monthly basis. But it is, I mean, I'm saying tens of millions. I'm thinking it's way more than tens of millions that they have that they're paying out. So imagine if you could save 5% or 7% or 10%.
Right.
Imagine if, to Simon's point, because everything is closer and logistically there are less challenges, actually it can be quicker by dynamically moving around which cloud they're on, depending on what time of day, and depend on whether there's more usage over in Asia or there's more usage over in the United States. Like the opportunities here are absolutely tremendous. And what nobody is going to say is, I think you've got this wrong. I don't think consumers, I don't think businesses, should I say, actually care about the lowest cost, the most convenience, and the best opportunity to have the best product at the right time. Simon, what do you think?
So Brian, you brought up an excellent example, TikTok. Did you know that TikTok have two development teams, one for China and one for US? And they are required to do that is because, again, everyone is coding towards their cloud platform. Again, I assuming TikTok might be using AWS and the Chinese TikTok might be using Lyrid, which is Chinese cloud. They are required to do that is because of the vendor lock-in. Like once you are in AWS, they don't want you to leave. With Lyrid, we liberate our user instead at day one, instead of hiring 20 engineers to run 2 sites, you only need 10 engineers. And we all know that, yes, cloud is expensive. Engineers are even more expensive. It's like 200K, 300K per head. With the market that we are approaching is, imagine every single company in China that are making an app, instead of hiring a brand new team to serve the US client, it will be the same team of people, but utilize, again, data and ability to navigate, saying that what mobile phone they're using, what cell phone number are they connecting from, and allow those compute and data storage to be regionalized. As you might aware, EU are having a lot of data requirement that anything that is in EU have to be compute, calculated, and stored in EU. US have the same requirement, China have the same requirement. Without Lyrid, they would have to have 3 separate teams, 3 different products, and Lyrid eliminated. Now they only need 1 product, and we just have to dynamically or through user preference telling how that data will be stored and compute in all 3 regions. I'm confident, I mean, like, again, I'm a salesperson, but I'm confident that we will able to save up to 90%. If you're doing things very inefficiently, having so many people running 3 different products, we can simplify it with translating to 90% saving to companies.
And actually, you're an investor, Simon. So you're looking at this from the same perspective as all show. Like you came into this as a friend and you came into this as an investor. And you looked at it and you said, you know what, I can make certain money as an investor, but man, I'm just going head first at this because I think that this is going to be a multi-billion-dollar company. I actually just had a new analogy for what I think your if Airbnb and IBM Watson had a baby, the baby would be Lyrid, right? Boy
Beautiful
girl
baby.
called Lyrid, right? Because what's the wonderful thing about Airbnb? You get to go to amazing places and you get to have an experience you could never have. What's the terrible thing is you got to hope you made the right choice. So if you actually had IBM making Watson making the choice for you, picking from 500 million destinations all over the world and saying, Brian, that's the one for you. And by the way, tomorrow it may not be, because we're not just going to base this on the fact that it's a nice location and it's in a nice place and it's got a nice beach. We're going to base this on your personality. And we know that on certain
Right.
days you like this and on certain days you like that. And we need to move it around based on that. And that's what I think is the genius in what you're building. So look, everybody listening, if you're not convinced that this is the future of cloud, God bless you. You're on another planet. This is absolutely huge, right? The only thing you should be asking yourself is execution and how much revenue can be made. So Simon, do you mind talking a little bit about the revenue model and how it works and how you're going to make money and really how you intend to grow this puppy so that it can get up to being that $8 billion company as quick as possible?
Thank you, Brian. So as we pointed out earlier, we barely did any marketing. Right out of the gate, we already have strong support from different clients of different size, of different vertical and different horizontal. The good thing about cloud business is we are allowing our user to sell to more people without the restriction of what cloud you're using. For those investors that are not in the cloud world, remember, when your solution is built in AWS, you can only sell to AWS client. That again, that's the enterprise requirement. Or your solution is built in Google, you can only sell to Google. In the past, all these companies that say, oh yeah, it's big enough for me to make money. I don't need to cross-platform. By the time when they do need to make the decision to cross-platform, they have to go back to stage 0, rewrite a new code to support a different cloud. All our clients today, again, $500,000, $500,000 worth of sales this year, is all having that aha moment, say, with Lyrid, at day 1, I made it work multi-cloud. At day X, when I become a global company, I can scale globally without hiring 20, 30 IT people. It will just be a click of a finger, and the app on the platform will take care of all this decision that I have to make. They just jump on it, no brainer. And just to tell you how much they like us, again, we are a startup. Not every single component is going to be there at day 1. They love us so much that they're paying us money to develop some feature that they need to be prioritized so that they can use our solution. And just one contract alone is 400K revenue. Yes, the ARR is about $200,000, but they believe in this vision that we are painting. They want us to make feature for them and paying us 200K to make it work. And all this is just for one client. This ERP software that we created is for one client. Every one new client that this ERP software company sell to will be a brand new 200K ARR for us. So it's an exponential scale.
Wonderful.
us.
And where do you see that going next year, Simon? So this is the first real year that you've gone at it. Before this, when you were in development, now you have a minimum viable product, which is in strong shape and getting stronger every single day. We're doing a raise right now, which is a pretty minimal raise. And then that will take us to next year. When we get to next year, what do you expect the revenue to be?
This is a very uncharted territory. Our growth is going off the scale. Handoyo and I just got off the phone and we just say like, oh crap, I think we need to hire more people. Every day now we are talking about we need to hire more people because when we just turned on a lead aggregator, which is Cleverly, and we got 3 meetings this week. We are getting 3 meetings every week. Even our Cleverly consultant was like, wow, you guys are, I've never seen anything like this before, that grow, people are adapting to this messaging, that they are scheduling meeting, trying to make more money with us. So our pipeline a week ago was only $1 million for 2022 worth of pipeline. We are projecting $2.4 million, but just a week later, our pipeline is now at 1.5 mil. 500K growth in a week just because of we are now finally turning on some inbound and drip marketing campaign to let people know about our product. So for next year, conservatively, we can make 2.4 mil. And any investor on the call would like to see how the breakdown is. Again, remember, every software developed on our platform, as they sell to new client, it's a new ARR for us. So imagine a client that is paying us 36K for ARR, that is just for one. If they sell it to 3 more next year, we'll get another 100K ARR. So 2.4 mil ARR is a very conservative projection. And then the following year, 2023, we are targeting 10 mil ARR, and that's when we will go for our Series A round.
Boom, baby. I love it. And then Handoyo, bring me back to the vision again. Where does this go to? So Simon's just shown us how the revenue is going to grow. I think everybody understands just the genesis of where the value and where the benefit is right now. What does this look like in 5 or 10 years?
I see the platform as the is something that levels everybody's playing field. Okay, so I wanna what I see this thing in the next 5 to 10 years, I want to connect every single data center across all the world. I'm not talking only for AWS, Google, or Azure. Also, your own data centers, also regional providers. They can play with the big boys. They can give values to their regional providers. As you say, Airbnb, married together with IBM Watson. Airbnb, as you can deploy your stuff dynamically to a local data centers, help the local economies and all those things. We'll create all this applications with all this solutions that we're building together. One is the ERP. There's another coming up, which is a hosted CMS, or no-code, low-code CMS. That's another solutions that we're providing, and we will provide all those solutions integrated into the platform so that they can get deployed and can just dynamically use by anyone as they want to sell it. So it's a leveling playing field where anybody can just run it, sell it, build it, globally distribute it. How I see this company is going for.
That's a huge vision. Like every single cloud data service everywhere in the world connected into one place, which is just governed by efficiency, by speed, by best pricing, and by highest convenience. Just incredible. I mean, if you think, I just want to take a second for investors to digest what they're hearing here, because the size of this is everything. And if anybody's been watching, if you're wondering, well, I wonder why Google have got so much extra money. Well, you're just looking at it. Their cloud services division is a money just beast. If you want to look at Amazon, yeah, sure. They sold books at the beginning, but trust me, their data services is what's piling in the billions right now. This space is absolutely huge because everybody on the planet, the 2 things are happening to everyone on the planet. Number 1, we have to store our data somewhere. There's no choice here. And number 2, the amount of data that we have is just multiplying by the second. and it's never going to go back. Simon, what are your thoughts?
I think you mentioned about future. So everyone heard about Elon Musk was complaining about Bitcoin consuming a lot of energy. Same thing with data center. They are always been powered 24/7, but some of them might not be calculating anything. So what Lyrid could do is, if you are again a sustainable, renewable energy activist, and you want to make sure that all your compute or data storage is done by a renewable certified data center, or you want, again, look for the cost of electricity and the cloud compute cost is always parallel, in that when the electricity costs go up, your cloud computer costs go up. So now imagine there's always a time zone around the globe that is midnight. And if your compute or your data calculation is not time critical, look at it, I can route it over automatically to a time zone that give you the cheapest electricity cost, because again, midnight, everyone is charging a Tesla, no one is using the electricity, so you get the best deal. We can help make cloud computing not only accountable, again, look for the cheapest rate, keep them accountable, making sure that they are available, number two, and now you can actually do the world a better good.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like I said, I think everybody is convinced on what the product can actually do. The only thing that I want to finish with is on the execution on the product, on the execution on the software, on the execution of the product market fit, on the execution of actually getting it out to market, and to make sure that we're going to have enough money to be able to do that. So let's start, first of all, with the raise. We just need a small raise right now. Why don't you need like $20 million to get this out to market?
I believe I don't really need that because here's what I think. Okay, I think an efficient people can actually deliver a very efficient product. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. You don't need $20 million to be efficient. That's what I'm trying to get at. That's and we're at the point where we're building something that is with this 2 million. We're raising $2 million, just in case everybody is listening. We are raising $2 million, and with this $2 million, we are actually building a more tighter ecosystem of a product that that delivers all this. We already put the platform, what do you call it, the foundation of the product. There you go.
Yeah.
We already laid down the foundations, and there's a lot of these UX, all this product market fitness, and all those things, exercises that we need to get at, and these are. And we are also generating revenues. That keep in mind with that. We are also generating revenues, and along with the revenues and the raise, I'm looking at the Series A basically already right now. I'm looking at the Series A, so that's more of my the way I'm looking at this because yeah, I don't see why do you need 20 million for that. That's what I'm saying.
Because you're a great executor, that's why. And to your point, you've already laid the rails, right? You're building the railroad, but the rails are already down. The only thing you now have to do is just continue with building on top of it to make sure that you're listening to what the customers are telling you.
Yes.
And you continue iterating to that stage. And then to your point, when you get to the A, that's when you go crazy. Like that's when you suddenly blow this thing up and bring it to the next level. Simon, your thoughts?
I felt like all this other company that is asking for $20-40 million at day one is because their product sucks. So they needed that $20-40 million to just paint this fake marketing image to convince people that this is the place to go. When Handoyo showed me the MVP at day one, we both are equally blown away. We took this TensorFlow app, which is open source. We throw it into the Lyrid code, and it just worked. Like we both was like, it just worked because, again, as Handoyo and Brian say, the foundation is so strong that the product is bulletproof, that you take an open source, put it in, and it just worked. And now what we want to show with this $2 million raise is we demonstrate all this awesome product that's in our platform, that all this customer that's using our solution love it. And then, yes, we still need the $10-20 million, but it's not going to be wasted like how other startups doing on marketing, but in execution. how to make it even better so that no one else can catch up, and we are the de facto best solution for multi-cloud.
I love it. And then Handoyo, as far as the team that you've built around you, how many people do you have now working in both on
Oh,
all
I keep
everywhere?
losing count for this. We keep hiring people, by the way. We keep adding more and more people. We just added two last 2 weeks. Um, and I just keep interviewing people. Like, oh man, they when I talk about like whatever I'm building, they just like, sign me up, man. Sign me up. I want to work on this, and we are actually, I think, 15, 16 at the moment.
Mhm.
And we have operations in Indonesia. I'm myself Indonesian, so I have an operations over in Indonesia, and we are building these awesome team over there, as well as I have some of my initial team members are also from India and also from here. So those are we are very, very worldwide as far as our what do you call that, company is concerned, and I don't see it why, because our product is that kind of product anyways, right? Our product is that kind of like, it doesn't know boundaries. We don't see countries as boundaries, basically, so if anybody listening want to join us, I would, yes, please contact me, and I would want to talk to you, and I would want to have more and more people joining on this crusade, basically.
And now you're on the cusp. And I want to, before we
Mhm,
finish, I'm going to finish with you, Handoyo, and I'm going to
mhm,
finish on the hero's journey, which is one of my favorite topics. And that's to talk about the most difficult part of the journey when you were starting out. It might have even been a little bit after you started out, but it was
mhm,
in that moment where things were at their worst, they were at their most difficult, and to talk about some of the challenges you were facing and how you overcame those challenges, and then to the moment when you absolutely knew that you had it worked out, and maybe some of the really positive things that worked there. Before I do that, though, I just want to give Simon just the last word on based on what you were just saying there, to see what Simon's thoughts are.
Absolutely. Again, you mentioned about the train have to have the railroad, right? Both Hando and myself can speak up to 5 languages, and we are ready to execute. When we are hiring engineer from India, Indonesia, it's not that they are very smart engineer globally, and our platform allow us to adapt them into creating business and career for everyone globally. So that is part of our edge and leverage, and also allow us to take on client globally at day one. Unlike many other startups that they are restricted to only their region, we are a global company at day one as a startup. And I think that is really what drawn us apart, that really helped us grow so rapidly, is because of our diverse background as a founder from a Southeast Asia region, and also having the tech and the business background, making this possible. We hired 5 people last month. We just hired 2 more people for these 2 weeks, and we will continue to hire. And if you guys want to turn your resume, please email it to hello@lyrid.io. And we are growing, and I want you to join us on this $8 billion journey for the next 3 to 5 years. I think we will be there a lot sooner, but that's our goal, that Hando and I will cheers a glass of whiskey, that if we can bring this to an $8 billion company in 3 to 5 years.
I love it. I love it. Handoyo, just finish us up with the hero's journey. Finish us up with some of the biggest challenges you faced at the most difficult times as you were starting this company out, and some of the biggest highs, and when you actually finally realized you had it made.
I mean, I have to. I don't really like to go back like to dark days, dark days. But there were dark days, of course, especially when the first time when we started this. There's not that much of information, about like how can I build this kind of company, right? And I mean, the idea of multi-cloud itself has been around for a while,
Hmm.
but I think nobody executed in the right way. But why is that? But there's so many people, and that actually is, I mean, I see myself as a thinker, right? And I dwell on those things. It's like, why? I mean, if they're not succeeding, what makes me can be able to succeed? And I've been obsessively thinking about that for like 1 year, 2 years ago when we first building this, and there was, and then I started to see what do you call it, as you say, I guess where you can start to see the light, I guess, is when I started to build it with all the people that the initial founders team, and we started to build this. I mean, we're not marketing guys, eh? We're engineers, and we built things that we think people will want to use, and I started to actually build it little by little, and I can see the result. And I was like, every time I see those little things, there's a little result, I get invigorated, every single, like the one that Simon says, when we deploy that TensorFlow dog or cats, I was like, holy shit, okay, that actually works. Okay, I didn't even think it was gonna work, but it does. And I was like, okay, we're onto something. I think we're onto something. And I was executing it in Google, I was executing it in AWS, I was executing it in my own data center, which I maintain, which I built. And I was like, all right, we're onto something. I think this is something that and as I build it more and more, I get more and more of those little proof. And it just and as I use it, I use the product myself, by the way. We are what do you call that? We are the consumer of our own platform. Okay. And the more I use it, the more I'm convinced that this is actually so easy, and I've been running this, what do you call it? Every single thing in my platform for the past like a year or so. And I have like 3 or 4 early developers, early users. And they're giving me the same feedback as well. This is invigoratingly easy,
And that's what does it, right? That's when you get to that stage where you say, I've really customers love my product. The
Right.
only thing we have to do is multiply it out. Simon, can you finish us up with how can people contact you? Just email addresses for you both, if you like. And obviously, everybody can always contact me at brian@expertdojo.com as well.
So when you email it to hello@lyrid.io, it will go to both of us. But if you want to email us specifically, you can email Handoyo at Sutanto@lyrid.io, or myself is at slu@lyrid.io. And feel free to visit our website. We are very active on Twitter, Instagram, whichever you like. We will be there, LinkedIn. My hero moment that I want to add on to Handoyo is, again, Handoyo is the brain. Without him, this company would not be there. As a salesperson, the aha moment is when the customer write us a $400,000 check. They are believing us with cash to buy our product. That was the hero moment for me, it went through that. And also our first investor that wrote us, well, of course, Brian is our first investor, but then consequently, there's a total of $250K that people invested in us. Is now that we have a vision, we have a product, we have a pipeline of sales, we have a market.
We're building marketing.
And people believe us. We are now a real company that take investors check. So join us the journey. We are getting a lot of VC pinging us. We are about to close the round. So please bring in same requirement. You bring us a customer, we'll give you a higher priority on our cap table.
I love it. Listen, you know what? The tracks are laid, the train is built, the coal is in the oven, the choo-choo has just started, the train is leaving the station. You better join it. Gentlemen, I couldn't be happier that we've invested. We feel lucky to be by your side, as do I. And any other investor who's listening to this, you should be thinking the same thing and reach out to the guys. And as I said, catch me if for any reason that you want to just check anything with me as well. I'll say the same stuff offline as I do online. Thank you, gents.